Anyone who knows her will tell you that Lisa Wolf is an intelligent, well-spoken leader in the field of integrated program management. But what they may not tell you is the fascinating background, the combination of parts that led to that success. I had a chance to speak to her about that recently.
I was a live, full-contact stuntwoman for Old Tucson Studios, a movie studio. People would come in and see shows, and I would do live stunt work, fall off of buildings and get shot and shoot people. And I also did a can-can show where I was the madam of a can-can and had girls who, were can-can dancers.
Now, where does this fit in your career?
Well, okay, so it was between the time when I thought I wanted to be a movie star or a famous singer, and was a performing professional. I went to an arts academy, high school, and all that stuff.
Okay.
And then decided, no, that wasn't for me. So while I still enjoy singing and I still sing professionally and play piano professionally and act professionally, it's more a hobby that pays now.
Okay.
Where I decided I wanted to be more pragmatic with my life.
So you actually are still in acting then?
I still act, not as frequently because that takes a lot more time. So singing and playing piano.
Are you talking about you're a union actor?
Not anymore.
Okay, but you were?
Yes.
Wow. So you were in it.
I was in it.
You were in the performing arts.
I was in it to win it, yes. I went to performing arts high school, went to college on a full scholarship for arts and academics. Yeah, I was going to do it, and then I had a realization that the lifestyle was not for me.
So we've established the fact that you know how to take risks in a manner that you can stay safe, right?
Yes.
So I'm sure that has incredible application to your world as a program manager, right?
You know,
from building safely.
Absolutely, and it's also allows you to make decisions without having to know every single piece of information.
Okay.
Because of course, when you're moving around a lot as a kid and you're kind of taking life as it comes, which is a lot of what I've done, you recognize the opportunities and you try to avoid the risks, and you balance the two. So even as you're a program manager,
I was kidding, but you're really for real about this. You learn about risk management from a very early age.
Yeah, from a very early age. Who can you trust? Who do you talk to? Because when you move frequently, the first people who want to be your friends are the ones you absolutely shouldn't be friends with. If I believe I can trust somebody, I want them to trust me. That, to me, it removes a lot of conflict. It removes a lot of improper communication, poor communication. Believing that somebody wants to do the right thing can actually shape the way you treat them and the way you interact with them. And so I found that that's very valuable. So
we've already established the fact you have this incredible past, which has taught you all kinds of life lessons, which are directly applicable today. But you're a stunt. You said you have had some experience in the performing arts. But can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I went to a performing arts high school. Obviously, you have to audition for that. I can't even begin to talk about the number of musical productions I've been in, the places I've performed, the people I've met because of the performing arts, singing and playing piano. I've met Paul McCartney and Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, both Bushes, and lots of famous people through that. But for me, it's like I said, now it's a hobby that pays. But at one time, it was my passion, it was my dream. But because I loved it, not to be famous, but because I love doing it.
So maybe it's a hobby that pays, but also there's an aspect of that shapes you as far as how it gives you a perception of your reality, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I would guess you could see past the virtual objective kind of things, and you can get into some of them, the things that are not quite so quick to the eye.
And it enables you to be more sympathetic, right? So when you're singing a song or you're interpreting a lyric, you're actually feeling the emotion of the person who wrote it.
Okay.
Right? So if you do that in your everyday life and you're paying attention to what people are saying, what they're doing, what their body language is saying to you, it's like interpreting a lyric.
Okay. Give me a little bit of background. What is it you currently are responsible for?
Okay.
A good big picture. Give me a big picture.
Okay, big picture. Yeah. I'm the EVM focal point for a consulting firm called Booz Allen Hamilton.
All right.
I'm also the focal point for our purchasing system. So not like a one-trick pony kind of thing.
Yeah.
I also am an adjunct professor at University of Maryland, teaching international entrepreneurship.
Okay.
I'm also currently the vice president of communication for the College of Performance Management. I also co-lead a working group at the NDIA it's called the Contracts Working Group, trying to figure out how to solve contracting for EVM issues. I also teach a lot teach and speak publicly all around the world on project management, teaching executives project management so that they understand the constraints and issues that their staff are dealing with. Very often when I would go do trainings at other companies, the common message was, but I can't do this here. My management doesn't understand this. And so then I started targeting executives. Like, do you understand that when you're asking your staff to change this, this, and this, it can't just happen overnight. There are specific things they have to follow. And so there's been a huge growth area for me, going all around to major companies throughout the world, having these conversations with the executives and helping them to understand that it's a top-down approach to enable proper project management.
And you also are married.
And I am married. I have 3 wonderful stepchildren and a great husband.
Wow.
Yeah.
In holding all these things together and having apparently a number of things that are going on, like what are the kind of the baseline things for you in your life that keep you on track and make it so that the day fits and that there may be a little time at the end of the day, and like how does that work?
Honestly, I pull on my planning and scheduling background. Okay. I really do. I have my iPhone never leaves my side, and I always have my schedule with me, and I always find the time. I literally block out time on my calendar. This is my husband time. This is my kid time. This is when I can work on this for the house. This is when I can do laundry. And then, of course, all the other stuff.
Okay, so you're in this. How would you pick out the things that are the ones that are the key issues that you're, like, the other things kind of meld into this main thing that's the drive of what goes on in your life? What is the main thing that you're working on, the thing that gives you the most thought, or the thing that you care about the most professionally that you're working on?
Well, there's the flip answer, which is retiring early. That's what I want to do. Okay.
That's a good answer.
I like to feel a sense of that I'm having an impact. So whether that impact is to my children, to my husband, to Booz Allen, to the industry itself, to my employees, or even all the volunteer stuff I do. If I'm having an impact, if somebody's life is going to be positively affected by something I do, that really, really drives me.
Okay, so that means that you have a way of discerning what are the important issues or the things that
I try
are the key factors or something that would give the most value of your commitment. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and there's times where I've had to learn as I've gotten older to say no because something's not going to be able to fit, or I won't be able to give it 100%. So I try not to do it halfway. So, even though I have all these things I'm trying to balance, if somebody tries to add something else, say no, that's not going to enable me to keep my commitments to other people, then I have to say no.
And how did you learn this?
To say no?
How did you learn to say no, but how did you learn to be able to structure your life the way that you do, to keep things, to try to have relatively successful capability of keeping things in balance? How does someone learn something like that?
I'm not sure. I mentioned growing up that we moved a lot, and my mom kind of sacrificed ever having a career because she followed my dad around. And as I got older, and but unfortunately, my parents' marriage ended up falling apart. My mother was left with no career and no foundation, because she'd given up all those years. And there was a part of myself that said, I'm not going to allow that to happen. And so I've always had more than one thing. So even as a child, when I started babysitting, I would babysit and I would clean houses. And then I'd balance the two. And then as I got older, I went to an arts academy. So I would have my academics and my arts and my after school job. And so I'd have to learn how to balance all of those because I had to help support the household, right? I had to make money, pay for my clothes, that kind of thing. And so it was just always a necessity. And so it became a habit. So as I became older, I've never had only one thing that I do. It's always been, you've got to figure out how to balance it so that you have financial security, but you also have, good family, and you have that love and that stability. You have that place you can go and you feel safe, and then you can go out and balance all the other things so that you have the freedom to do what you like to do.
I noticed in things I was reading up before we got together that you do mentoring. Is that right?
There's the natural mentoring that we have within our construct at Booz Allen Hamilton. We have internal mentoring programs. Okay. But from a formal aspect, I have a mentee that's a formal mentee, and then of course I have the employees that I try to mentor. Okay. But I do training and that kind of thing.
Okay. So how much of what you're doing in training has to do with the technical nature of what you're teaching people, and how much of it is that you're also teaching skills at the same time?
The soft skills.
Yeah. How much does that work with you in that?
There's always the balance, right? So typically whenever I'm doing a project management training or an earned value management training, it always has to do with balancing the pragmatic with the technical. So you can't just teach somebody, hey, you have to do X, Y, and Z. You have to have the discussion about how do you get other people to buy into X, Y, and Z.
Okay, good.
Because without that, you cannot succeed in doing the X, Y, and Z. Okay. So very often my trainings center around the soft skills, the personal powers, the abilities that people have to influence other people, managing conflict, not necessarily resolving it, but managing it, making sure that you can actually achieve what you need to achieve while helping other people achieve. And that has to do with the impact.
Do you see enough interest to warrant the need as far as integrated program management amongst younger professionals? Is there a potential for a good crop of highly motivated and exciting, handsome, beautiful? Is this a possible career for people? Are the right pieces there?
I think undoubtedly they're there. We could get into a whole conversation regarding a generational gap in personal accountability and behaviors that might be aside from what you're getting at.
Yeah, that is interesting, because that's not at all what I was asking.
Okay, but when I teach, because I teach at University of Maryland, and so I get to expose to a lot of our youth, through that.
Right.
And there's a definite need. And I find that when I'm teaching a course, even though I'm teaching international entrepreneurship, I find very often that I'm having to get these kids to understand how to manage a project, because we have a major project that they have to provide at the end of the course. And so I'm teaching them not just how to build a business internationally, but how to develop a business case for that business, and how developing a business case is a deliverable. So when you're working in a team, they have to have a team they work in, and assigning the responsibility and making sure you split up the work, which is much like a work breakdown structure, and defining a CAM, that kind of thing, and getting them to create a schedule of when they want things done. And you find that the teams who wait till the 15th week are less successful than the people who are actually doing it from the beginning. And so you're walking them through that.
Sense that you're saying you think that maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, that maybe it's not as good as it was before, as far as what a person in your instructional position has to work with. Is that
the cream rises? The cream rises to the top, and you can see those that get it.
Yeah.
Some people have a natural inherent ability to understand that things need to be planned.
Right.
And then you have to follow the plan. And if you veer from the plan, then you have to figure out how you're going to get back on course, or figure out what your new scope is. Some people inherently have that skill, and it manifests young. Mm-hmm. And other people don't. They kind of fly by the seat of their pants. And I get that, because that's what I did for the vast majority of my life, until I decided that I wanted to focus. So I kind of connect with them, the ones who can't. So those are the ones I spend a little more time trying to focus them and get them to understand that if you have a plan, this will help you. And I've had a lot of students who come back and say, wow, this kind of applies to me looking for a job, and this kind of applies to my job. And guess what? It does.
It's so incredible. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Is there something that you bring, you think, in the uniqueness of who you are as a woman into what you do, and the kind of ways that what you have to provide?
I do think women tend to have that ability to kind of read the room a little better and know when to shut up or when to speak up. And sometimes are more often willing to wait before expressing an opinion. And I think that's helped me a lot. Women tend to be more open to the possibility they're wrong.
Where are you at in your career as far as the things that you've wanted to accomplish and where you happen to be?
Goodness. I've said this probably multiple times in my life. I am way further ahead than I ever thought I would be. I went to college on a full scholarship for music and academics, and quit. And decided, I can do that. I don't need this. And then I finally went back to school.
You mean you quit?
I quit college.
Quit college.
Yeah, I gave up a full ride. Then when the studio that I was working at burned to the ground, I decided, well, maybe I should go back to school. So I finally went back to school, got my bachelor's degree at 30, and didn't finish my master's until almost 45. I'm blessed, right? So often I find myself going, when's the other shoe going to drop? I'm just so fortunate. So I think I'm where I want to be. Do I have aspirations to be higher? I'm not by nature a very competitive person, so I tend to have lived my life and continue to live my life as in let's see what happens.
So So it would seem to me, it comes across that opportunities almost find you as opposed to you finding them. Am I overreacting?
I think it's
overreading?
more that everybody has opportunities that come to them.
Okay.
Which ones you choose to take advantage of,
Okay.
I think shapes and defines where you're going to wind up.
Okay.
The things you say no to versus the things you say yes to.
Okay.
And I happened to have said yes to a lot of things.
So you have had a gift of discriminative decision making then.
I think I've been lucky. I don't.
Okay. I like mine better.
I think saying I have a gift is a bit more than I'm willing to swallow. So I think I've been very lucky in the choices that I've made.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are you though, as far as what other things are yet to be accomplished? What goals are there out in front of you?
Well, I would love to. Well, I got published in Measurable News in the PM World Journal, which was a huge dream of mine to have an article published. Thank you. But I want to write a book. I don't know about what yet, so that has to come to me probably in a dream.
Okay.
And I really want to publish a book.
Mm-hmm.
That's my big thing. The one thing I really wanted to do, I'm not able to do at this state in my life because I've aged out of it. But professionally, yeah, I'd like to write a book. I want to be able to leave working full time and work full time. For a big company.
Sure.
And I want to be a professor full time. That's what I would really love to do. And just teach people.
We can go back a little bit to the time before the age 30 when you finally got that degree. Would I have met the same confident person, the same...
Confident, wow.
I mean, you come across as a self-confident person. You seem like you've got a grasp of who you are. That surprised you? I mean, I think you probably have a sense of
of what I believe in, yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
Was that core person there? Has it always been there?
No, absolutely not. Prior to the age of, I would even say 35, close to 40 maybe, there was a long period of my life extremely insecure, didn't really know what I wanted, aside from being independent and not needing anybody else to support me. I will be honest, I totally...
But
did not have
pulling
that
thread just a little bit.
Yeah.
Knowing what you know now to what you knew then, were you a lot closer to who you are now than you knew, or were there some major things that had to happen?
That's a really good question, because the reason I didn't go into the arts is that I didn't like the lifestyle. I didn't like some of the goings on in the arts industry. Did not fit my ethical belief system.
Right.
Now looking back at my age and looking back at the young me going, wow, you really made a smart decision, because I could have wound up down a totally different path that I've seen a lot of my friends who were active in the theater.
That's kind of what I'm asking you. So there was that.
There's that core.
The core was there.
The core was there. It was just kind of feeling like, where do I...
Yeah.
And I kind of swam and said, okay, yeah, that looks good. Oh, well, this looks good too. And okay, well, let me try this now. And then trying all those different things actually led to a very well-rounded capability.
So help me
by
with
accident.
this. Help me with this, and help me with the person that might be watching this. Like, what are we saying to them? What are you saying to them about? Because I wouldn't be surprised if some, or maybe a good number of people are at that stage where they're going, I don't know what's going on. I don't know where I'm going. I don't even know if I'm supposed to be doing what I'm doing. And yet they might actually be making a series of good decisions. They just don't know it. Like, can you talk to that person a little bit?
Sure. So for that person, while I mentioned earlier knowing when to say no, knowing when to say yes.
Okay.
And say yes. If something sounds interesting and challenging, and even if you're not perfectly fit for the role, but you know that you can do it, say yes. Go for it. Why not? What's the worst the person can say? No. The next person might say yes.
Right.
And for me, that shaped my career. There were jobs I went for and positions I went for that I was like, it sounds really hard. And even people in my life and my family would be like, are you sure you could do that?
Yeah.
And I would just go for it. And then I would get into the position and just prove myself.
Surprise, surprise.
And surprise myself, surprise whoever. And then I found that I learned something new. Yeah. And then, oh, that looks neat. And don't ever be afraid.
And they are just human beings when you get in there, right?
Yeah, they're all just people. Yeah. And everybody makes mistakes. Nobody knows everything. They might think they do, but nobody knows everything.
Yeah.
And so, be open to making the mistakes. Don't try to hide the mistakes.
Okay.
Try to learn from them. But say yes.
Okay.
Say yes. When you see something that looks interesting, even if you think it might be completely unrelated, say yes.
With that, just as a flip phone, how do you know how so well to say no?
Well, two ways. One, my husband says you better say no.
So no is the default, right?
And two is just, when you're feeling just exhausted and
Sure.
you find things slipping, and if you're not able to meet everything you committed to, you're overcommitting. And you don't want to build the reputation of being the person who says yes but can't actually meet it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have done that, and it's very embarrassing, and you feel like you've let people down. And if you care about how people feel and you're a kind person, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be fair to you without asking you just a couple more questions. One would be this whole matter of, you mentioned earlier about kindness and that being a kind of a lightning rod for you about being able to know that maybe this might be a person you can work with. Can you talk a little bit about the teams that you work with and what you consider to be your role as a team member, and what is it you try to do when you're in a team situation that is good for everybody or it moves things forward? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I'm very fortunate that for the last 9 years I've been working at Booz Allen Hamilton, and I know this is not a plug for Booz Allen Hamilton, but we thrive and live and breathe the philosophy of a collaborative environment.
Mm-hmm.
So when people don't fit in that environment, they don't last very long.
Okay.
So I'm very fortunate that the people I work with tend to base relationships on trust. So when I'm a member of a team, it's, there's compromise and then there's collaboration. Compromise is win-lose. Mm-hmm. Collaboration is win-win.
Right.
So we're constantly trying to find the solution that meets, and in my role, which is regulatory compliance, for the EVM system and the purchasing system, it's what's going to satisfy our requirement, which is a win, but also satisfy the government, which is protecting them and their money, which is a win, which protects the taxpayer, which is a win, which then makes the project manager, the program manager, the subcontract administrator, the contract administrator, makes them all happy, because we all know that obviously business is the ultimate goal. Mm-hmm. So working in that collaborative environment has been extremely beneficial to learning how to do that. Everybody trusts that everybody wants to do the right thing. They just need to be told how to do the right thing. If you believe they're trying to get around doing the right thing, then you don't have trust, and then your behavior toward them becomes win-lose.
Yeah, right.
But if you believe that they want to do the right thing, you're merely aiding them to do the right thing.
Right.
So EVM analysts, even back when I was just when I was an analyst or a project program
She
scheduler.
didn't mean that.
Yeah, I didn't mean that.
Analysts are good people.
Yeah, you can edit that out. But even when I was a EVM analyst or planner scheduler, the whole thing was assuming that everybody wants to do the right thing keeps you from telling them what they can't do. Yeah. It focuses your attention on what you can do,
right,
so that you can meet everybody's needs.
Great. One more question. Since you happen to be in this great position you're in, where you are helping people with entrepreneurship, you're involved with these various disciplines you're working in, and you happen to be a recognized and very dedicated person in the field of integrated program management, what is the future of integrated program management from what you see?
I was actually leading a conversation today with government, and it was very interesting that one of the government people said to me, we've got to change the language. We've got to not say earned value management. We have to say integrated program management, because that's what it is. And then I hear John McGregor from PARCA pretty much echoing the same sentiment. So I think the future is I think the terminology is going to change. B, we have great leadership. We had Gordon Kranz kind of pick up the flag at PARCA, and then we've got John McGregor picking it up again and continuing to carry it, which is this is about making sure everybody makes good decisions. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, the future is looking at earned value management not as a box you have to check, but as a forcing function for doing the right thing, which is solid project management, which is integrated performance management, right? You have to integrate the cost, the schedule, the scope, and the risk, and all the other items that you have to consider when you're managing the project, you're managing the program. And I think there's a soft skills thing happening in the field that people are getting, that it's not this hard thing, it's what are we trying to do? And I see that's the future we're heading into, because that's what leadership really keeps echoing, is the soft skill of it, which is how do we know how the program's doing? How do we know where it's going and what really matters? And I would love it if I'm right. I would love it if I'm right. You see the DCMA auditors come in and they're really paying attention to not did you cross this T, but does not crossing this T actually help us meet our objective? Okay, it's okay you didn't cross the T. and that's where I'd like it to go. And with leaders like John McGregor and them, I think we might be there.